For a couple years now, Ableton has become a staple in the live music industry. From artists to churches, Ableton Live has become the go-to software for making live performances into a more professional and full-sounding experience. Sure, it may look a little different than everything else that you're used to, and yeah, it's gonna take some learning, but the flexibility that you get with this software is gonna be unparalleled. So today we're gonna crush that learning curve and we're gonna get you started using Ableton Live for your live performances. Before we begin, if you want more Ableton Live tutorials or creative conversations, live beat making, feel free to subscribe and hit that little notification bell to get notified of when a video drops. So before we get into the computer, we got a little bit of things to talk about. Firstly, why would you want to use this for live use at all? Running backing tracks has become a really big staple of live performances. It's been that way for a really long time, but I think only in the last 5 to 10 years has running backing tracks live been so obviously used, and everybody's starting to learn more and more about it. I remember starting out in bands, you didn't really know how people sounded so big and how live all of these strings were happening, or all of these synths were happening on stage when they had no orchestral players or any synth players on stage at all. Now it's gotten so much easier and so much more accessible for new people to come in and start running tracks right out the gate. And most people understand that some of what you hear when you go to a live show is in a backing track. So if you have a lot of synths in your song, but you don't have a keys player, backing tracks can be for you. If you're a 4-piece rock band, but you want to have a rhythm guitar playing the whole time while your lead guitar goes and plays a guitar solo, backing tracks could be for you, for that rhythm guitar to be playing the entire time while the guitarist takes his solo. Now, this can get pretty deep. It can be as simple or as complicated as you want. It can be simple as a click and a track, or it can be as complicated as 32 channels of multi-out sending to the front of house with video content and lighting being controlled via MIDI, as well as sending patch changes to Kempers and sending cue changes to a lighting console. It can get crazy, but we're not gonna really deal with all of that in this video. In today's video, we're gonna go over the simple ways for you to get started using this for your live performances. So here's what you're gonna need. Number one, you'll need a computer to run this off of, preferably a laptop of some kind. I don't think you're gonna wanna drag a giant tower to shows, or I know some people bring an iMac, but it's a lot to haul around when you could just bring a laptop. And on the other end, it has to be a computer like a laptop, at least, not an iPad of any kind or a tablet of any kind. You could potentially run it off that, but I personally haven't tried that. There are apps and things that you can use to run tracks off of an iPad, but once again, it's not as expandable as a computer in case you decide to do more later. Number two, you'll need a copy of Ableton Live, even down to Ableton Live Intro, or a free version that you get when you buy a MIDI controller. Number three, you'll need a stereo split cable like one of these, a headphone jack to left and right stereo 1/4 inch out, or some sort of audio interface to get the audio out of your computer. A lot of people use the Behringer Euphoria series for that. I even use a Behringer Euphoria for running a lot of multi-out backing tracks. The way we're gonna do this is we're gonna go through two bands' Ableton sets that I've produced. So this is gonna be firstly a band named Heirloom from North Carolina that does metalcore, and a band named abandcalledlove from Atlanta that does more pop rock stuff. And I'm going to show you their live sets that I've built for them, and then we're going to build out a live set from scratch so you can see what the process looks like doing that. Finally, with all that out of the way, first, I'm going to show you how to set up the actual session. This is a session I made for a band from North Carolina that I worked with called Heirloom. Because I worked with them, it was made very easy for me. I bounced out all of the clicks for each song whenever we did it. We all talked about exactly what they needed for their live set, and then I built them their tracks based on the mix of each song. So what they ended up needing were clicks, guides, all of the programming like synths and a lot of percussive elements and things like that. I'll show you some examples of that in a second. Backing screams for certain parts, backing singing things like harmony, because I don't think anyone else in the band sings live. They're a 4-piece, by the way, so they also need a rhythm guitar track to double some rhythm guitar parts, and also when their guitarist live is playing more lead parts, this rhythm guitar is matching what is in the song and matching some of what the bass plays. And then also a few parts where there's more ambient lead guitars, where their actual live guitar player is playing more rhythm-based breakdowns and things like that. The lead guitar in the track is kind of taking over the lead duty, but keeping that aspect to the live set there. All I've done is gone through and placed the clicks where they need to go. They all have a little bit of lead in, and I also set up cues for them as well.
Or just stand there and
1, 2, 3, 4.
Let's listen to this song, Accuser. These are the program parts for it. This is what that sounds like. There's a lot of synths. There's some swells and whooshes. There's also, I believe, here some hi-hats. And I believe also 808s are in here as well. All the impacts and everything like that. So we have some vocals here. This is in the chorus. So it's a mixture of screams and sings. So I have it on the scream channel. And then we also have the lead guitar part down here. The more ambient lead guitar part. And then we have a rhythm as well. So all together. So that's all of the backing track stuff that they're using specifically on that song to varying degrees. Obviously, the rhythm is really, really low. The rhythm guitar is really only helpful in places like this breakdown. Where that rhythm guitar part really needs to be there a little more forcefully. And it needs to sound larger than life on stage. And then obviously they can take some of this or leave some of this. I think in the track up here, there's also some vocals of just some ahs. So yeah, different ways to do it. I have a guide following in. I just put this in my session. This is something that when you're working with a producer or if you're producing yourself, you can do this inside your mix session if you want. You know, start at the beginning of the song, bounce 2 bars before the beginning of the song, and add a cue that just says intro 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever the count needs to be, like so.
just stand there and
1, 2, 3, 4.
Like that. I have
1, 2, 3, 4.
for any like BPM changes, I have it shifting and doing a recount. So like for this song, Karma Conduit, it slows down in a section and also key changes, but it slows down pretty drastically in a section. So I have a count happening again, coming where the band comes back in.
One, 2, 3, 4.
Now, the way that I would route this if I was going specifically, you know, down a stereo cable like this is I would go to my click and guide section, and I would make sure my click and guide are going to external out number 1. And that will send the full stereo signal only down the left channel. And then for the rest of it, I would select all of these. I'm just clicking the first one, holding shift and going down. I would select all of those and make them go to external out 2. What that will do is send all of the tracks, stereo, and everything down the right channel only, or the second channel only. Now, some people will argue, well, why don't you just grab these and go left, and grab these and go right, and just, hard pan them each way? There's 2 reasons that I don't like doing that. Number 1, sometimes the clicks gain can be so hot. If you're sending it out the left side by panning, it will still bleed into the right channel. So by sending it only down the left channel and not even giving it the option of potentially going down the right channel, you're isolating it more. The other reason is actually on the track side. So like I showed you in that section of Accuser, actually. So this section, the hi-hats are panning back and forth. If I pan them only to the right, you're only going to get the signal for when the right hi-hats are there. When the hi-hats go to the left side and start panning to the left, they're just going to disappear. If I'm sending them out, the external out to number 2, it's sending that entire stereo signal to the track that you need to send it to, rather than panning it right and only getting half of your track, especially things that are stereo width. So like say you have a guitar going left and then a guitar going right, you want both of those. Sending them external out will make sure that both of those will go through the track rather than only half of it going through the track. So this is a pretty easy way to get everything in. Like I said, all you're doing is going into each section, getting the tracks that you need from your producer, or if you're producing that, you just bounce each song and then you drop each song in as you need to, and then you run the session song by song all the way down. You can even this way get the timing right. So they have very few breaks in their set. So I have a lot of these songs going back to back. So like this song, we're going from Karma Conduit into Accuser.
One, two, three, four.
Right into the next song. That song starts with vocals. Same for the next song. That song into Furthest Corners. Fade out. Right into the next song.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, so this one's a little different. This is a band called Love that I've set up an Ableton session for recently. And these tracks have actually come from a bunch of different places. So some of these I worked on, some of these came from other people. So you'll see that this one kind of looks a lot different than the other one, where it was a lot more, everything was the same. I was able to control how everything got bounced out. This one was not that case. I actually had to go in and shift where things were. You'll see what I'm saying. Like for this first song, I had to create some fades and I had to do some cutting and copying and adding some stuff for the intro. All of that should be the same down there. And then you won't see that stuff again until way, way later. But then also, if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that one of these songs has full piano tracks and full guitar tracks available. The reason for all of that is this band's members on stage live shifts a lot. So they don't always have the live keys player. They don't always have their second or third, sometimes guitar player. I'd build the set out to be flexible. It's contingent on how many people they have on stage at a specific time. They can always mute stuff. That's why I have these piano and guitar tracks down here in groups, so that if they do have the piano player, they just mute the piano track. If they have their guitar players but no piano, you just mute the guitar track. That way it's still available. But they also have a lot of synths on specific songs, not on every song, but on some songs they have a lot of synths. The song Thriving Season specifically has a lot of synths. So I broke this one, and I worked on this song specifically. So I broke it up into effects, perk, 2 different basses so I could send them separately, keys, synth pad, synth arp, synth lead, strings. That way if they did have a synth player with them, the synth player could decide what track he wanted to play, and then they could go in and just you select the track here and you just hit 0 and it deactivates it, and that way it doesn't go into the system at all. This, like I said, is very, very flexible depending on what they want to do per show. Another thing you'll notice is that there's no click track up here set up for them, and that is because in this one they're using the built-in click in Ableton. So let's go down to our master track down here, and I'll show you. If you hit A, show you our automation lanes. So I'm actually automating the tempo for every song change. And some of these songs are the same tempo, some of them aren't. Where it comes in real big handy is right here in this drop transition. We have I took a synth from the chorus and made it a teaser of the next song, kind of transitioning out of one song into the other. We also key change there. Right there is the end of the song, and then it'll automatically change tempo, and the track will change the key for us. I have a filter automation here, slowly opening up a filter.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
So now we're going to jump to a blank session. I'm going to show you how I would build one from scratch using tracks that I've made. So firstly, I'm going to open up my tab over here, and I'm actually going to add my tracks folder. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to go to my samples folder. I'm going to go to my live tracks area, and we're just going to add, let's say we'll add some worship tracks, and that'll be the easiest one to do. So now that I've added that folder there, I can just click here, have easy access to all of these tracks right on the left-hand side. So now we're gonna go and label all of these what I want them to be. So we're gonna do a perk track. We're gonna do a synth pads track. We're gonna add a synth lead track. We're going to add a bass track. I'm going to put the bass up here below the perk track. I'm going to add a cues track at the top. And that's going to be it for right now. We may add some stuff later. We'll see. But to start, this is where we're going to start. So let's do the first song. So we'll add this song called Seasons Change. I'm going to drop the cue in there. I'm going to change the tempo to 132. Make sure it is unwarped. Starting at 000. Cool. And then I'm going to go through and add all of these. And then as we're adding all of these, I'm going to go through and make sure none of them are warped to start with, and that they all start at the beginning. 000, good. 000, good. All right. So now if we enable our click, we hit play.
Intro.
I'm going to turn that click down a little bit.
Vamp 2, 3, 4.
All right, so these are a little loud right now. So now I have all of these tracks set up and they're working.
Vamp 2, 3, 4.
So now we have that song in. I'm going to add a marker up here at the top. Add locator. And I'm going to name it I'll name this song 1. We can do this a couple different ways to get to song 2. Here's the way that I like to do it, and that is making a very seamless transition from song 1 to song 2. So let's listen to the end of song 1.
3, 4.
I want it to start right there. So I'm going to add another locator. We'll call this song 2. We're going to trim these ends off here. And I'm going to go through the process of adding all these tracks again. Before we even hit play, we're going to go here and make sure that visually these are looking about the same, at least as a starting place. We can always tweak them later, but I'm going to just make them a little quieter, kind of to start. That way we're not blowing our ears out right out of the gate. And as you can see, this one didn't have a lead. This one's just track pads, bass, percussion, and cues. Now what you're going to notice is that if I hit play,
Ending 2, 3, 4. Intro 2, 3, 4.
the click is not in time with the actual song. So we need to go to our automation lanes. We're going to open our master channel down here. We're going to hit A to activate our automation lanes. And currently it is mapped to the song tempo where I have this song 2 bar at. I want to create a node there, and then I want to create another one and bring it down. I'm going to right click this second node, hit edit value, and my folder with the track in it says that this song is 126 BPM. So, and I select that and hit enter, and it puts it at 126. So now when it hits that section, it's going to drop the BPM down from 132 to 126. You can see it changing when I click in the different areas, but also when I let it play.
4. Intro 2, 3, 4.
And now it's right in. Now the other issue is this song is in D and this song is in A flat. Now, if that's what you want, then that's fine. But for me personally, I'm going to want this song to actually be an A so that the transition's a little smoother. So I'm going to click the pad track and I'm going to hold shift and also click the bass track. I'm going to go down here and bring up this bottom area. It says 2 audio clips in 2 tracks are selected. That means whatever I'm doing down here in my clip editor window is going to affect both of these tracks at the same time, which is what I want right now. I'm going to warp both of them. We're going to select complex, and then I'm in A flat and I need to go to A. So I'm going to go up 1 semitone, and that will put both of those tracks in A now.
Intro 2, 3, 4.
Before it was
Intro 2, 3.
now we're up. That's an A
4.
flat. Now we're up at A. And the bass also.
3, 4.
So now this transition is a little smoother because we are going from D to A, which is a 5th jump, which is a nice melodically pleasing jump.
Ending 2, 3, 4. Intro 2, 3, 4.
So now throughout the song, it's going to be the right tempo, 126, all the way to the end of the song. And then let's say we add a third song, but let's say we don't know if there's going to be a break or not. So I want to add the third song actually over here. because we might need a breather right here, but we don't know how long it's going to be. I'm going to add the third song over here, and then I'm going to show you how we can jump from the end of the second song to the beginning of the third song instantly and still on tempo. So let's go over to song 3. We'll add this song Everbee, which is in C. We're going to add all of the tracks in like we normally would. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and change the tempo here as well. So it's going to go from 126 up to 138, and then we are going to add all of the tracks in as needed. So now that those are tidy and ready to go, what I want to do is set up some key commands for these. So since you're going to be using a laptop, you'll have this readily available just in case you need to stop the show, or in the case of what we're doing right here, we need a long break here, but we're not sure how long it's going to be, and we don't want to let it just play indefinitely and then try to guess where that next song starts. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to this area where it says key. I'm going to hit key. This is going to be key mappings on our keyboard, specifically our not our like MIDI keyboard, but our strokes keyboard, like our numerical keyboard. So I'm going to go to song 1. I'm going to select the marker up here, and I'm going to hit the number 1. I'm going to do the same with the rest. Number 2, song number 2, I'm going to hit key 2. Song number 3, I'm going to hit key 3. And then I'm going to deselect the key area. And now, whenever I hit 1, it's going to take me directly to song number 1. When I hit number 2, it's going to take me directly to song number 2. And when I hit number 3, it's going to take me directly to song number 3. How that is very helpful is, let's say we're ending song number 2.
2, 3, 4.
We need to stop. Okay, we're taking a quick break. We're not taking a quick break? Okay, I'm going to hit 3 and then immediately hit spacebar, and we're in.
Intro. 2, 3, 4.
So very easy way to jump. Or let's say we're cutting song 2. So let's get to the end of song 1.
Ending. 2.
Oh, we got to cut song
3,
2 now. Okay,
4.
cool. Let that song end. And right before it gets there, we're going to hit 3. And it's going to jump straight to song 3.
Intro. 2, 3, 4.
And we never even touched song 2. So using the keys there is a big plus for being able to quickly jump around your Ableton session. I really like the smoothness of not having to touch any kind of keyboard commands and just having things pre-mapped as far as having songs running into each other, the way we have song 1 and 2 running into each other.
4.
How smooth this is without me having to touch anything.
Intro. 2, 3, 4.
That's a really basic way of setting up your session. Now, the way I would run this out, like we discussed, is I would go to master, external out, and I would go to number 1 for my cues, and then I would go to external out for the rest of it and go to 2. Or let's say I'm running my universal audio and we have multiple outs, right? Let's say we have multiple outs here, all 10. I want to run my cues still down 1 channel. So let's run the cues down 10. How am I going to get my click down the same channel? I'm going to go down to where it says master. This, I don't know why they don't label this at all. And maybe they do in a specific area. I don't really know why they would label this, but this is your cue out. It's called your cue out. And if you select this and send that one to number 10, you can see that your click is now going to channel 10 and your cues are also going to channel 10. Then let's say we want everything separated. So my loops are going to go to 3 and 4. My bass is going to go to 5 and 6. My pads are going to go to 7 and 8, and we'll say our synth leads are going to go to 1 and 2. Very simple. Now everything's sent out individually, and front of house can mix the tracks into your set a little more naturally rather than everything being baked down to just 2 channels. You have them spread across multiple channels. Now, obviously, you have to have an interface that gives you the ability to do that. So the easier way, like we discussed, is to just do 1 to cues and 2 to tracks, or you could also do 1 to cues, and let's say you do have a 4-channel interface. We'll do 3 and 4 to tracks, and let's say we'll do 2 to cues and 1 to click. And that way you can have individual control of your click and your cues, but all of your tracks are all running down external outs 3 and 4. And so that way everything's being sent out 3 and 4, but in your in-ear mixes, you can have individual control of your cues. That's one of the ways to do it. Like I said, it's kind of customizable at this point to what your needs are. I can only tell you kind of what my general use case is. I end up using 5 outs. So I'll end up running cues and click down channel 5. I'll run low end and percussive tracks down 1 and 2, and all synths down 3 and 4. So that way any loops with like low end or bass hits or any kind of bass synths are all going down the 1 track. They can send that to the subs without having to mess with sending the pads or anything like that down to the subs. And you can also, on your front of house console, mix those and EQ those and compress those slightly differently, just like you would any other kind of instrument coming from front of house. So that's a basic way to set up Ableton Live for your live backing track setup. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to reach out to me. I can try to help you as much as I can in your individual case. Drop a comment. I'm sure that I can help you in the comment section. If you want a more complicated version of this, where we do MIDI programming, lights, or maybe sending video content out, leave a comment if you want that. That's something I can do. I've done it for a couple different bands before. Would love to make a video on that if that's something that people are interested in. If you're a band and you want me to set up an Ableton Live session for you for your first live backing track, also feel free to reach out. I do that for a lot of different bands. There's 2 bands that we saw today that I did that for. So once again, feel free to reach out. And if you want to learn a little bit more about Ableton Live, maybe how to create music or how to produce inside of Ableton Live, I have some videos on that right over here. And if you want to maybe listen to some lo-fi or kind of chill and decompress on taking in all of this information, I have a really cool playlist of that kind of stuff right over here. Feel free to check both of those out. But that's the end of this video. I'll see you next time.